the international window with the friendlies coming up very soon. Let's start there. Friendlies are going to take place on Saturday, April the 8th, and then they're going to close out this two-game series against Ireland on Tuesday, the 11th. So two games for players to make a final push, a final lasting impression for Andonovski and the coaching staff. Maybe let's go back through the roster a little bit. We did do an initial episode for first reactions to the roster, and rightfully so. There were a lot of names getting reintroduced to this program. So let's maybe go through them. Just a quick refresher to everyone in case you have missed some things along the way. The goalkeepers on the roster for these two friendlies: Adie Franch, Casey Murphy, and Alyssa Nair. Defenders: Alana Cook, Tierna Davidson, Emily Fox, Crystal Dunn, Naomi Girma, Sophia Huerta, Casey Kruger, Kelly O'Hara, Becky Sauerbrunn, and Emily Sonnet. Midfielders: Julie Ertz, Lindsay Uran, Taylor Korniak, Rose Lavelle, Christy Mewis, Ashley Sanchez, and Andy Sullivan. And the forwards: Ashley Hatch, Alex Morgan, Trinity Rodman, Sophia Smith, Mallory Swanson, and Lynn Williams. One of the main things that we were reacting to: who's back, who was off, but mostly who's back in this mix. A 26 player roster named for these friendlies. I thought that was maybe a little bit of an interesting note to take away in the first reactions from this, because there are coaches who are still pushing, keeping their fingers crossed that it will be 26 players that they can name for that July roster. But a note within the release of this initial roster that 23 players will be made available, dressed on game days for selection. So other than that, other than those little tiny tidbits that were interesting to me, of course, what really stole my attention was the return of certain players, where we're getting to see Tierna Davidson back into the mix after a lengthy return to play protocol from her ACL surgery. We're going to get to see Kelly O'Hara's return after missing some extended time with the team with, I believe it was kind of an ongoing hip issue for her. And we're going to get to see players like Casey Kruger back in the mix. And of course, Julie Ertz. So, I mean, that's a handful of players, all handful of players excited to see their return. And of course, we can't leave out Sophia Smith, right? Because she missed the first two camps this year, but she doesn't look too out of form at the moment.
No. I mean, even you look at someone like Kelly O'Hara that has been missing the international camps and play with the U.S. Due to injuries, but she's been with Gotham. She played in the first 2 weeks, getting significant minutes. I think 90 in 1 week and then close to 90 the second week. So definitely, like, these players are up to form and ready to compete. I know Sophia Smith talking about how she was disappointed to miss the first couple of camps due to injury, but it was the right decision for the team, for her recovery. And it was more like, let's get it back, like right back into things for her. But yeah, when you look at this group, there are a lot of experienced players and a lot of veterans on this group. A lot of players that have a lot of caps. There's over 6 players with over 100 caps on this roster. One of those actually being Julie Ertz, which she's going to be honored, which is so funny.
Yeah.
I saw this in the press release, and
Yeah.
I just think it's kind of funny because Ertz hit her 100th cap in like March of 2020.
Yeah.
But then the pandemic came, and then it was the Olympics. And that was the only time that the U.S. was playing in front of fans. And you can't honor someone for their caps or personal achievements in those Olympic stage moments, like same as you wouldn't do it for a World Cup. You can really only do that during friendlies. And then she hasn't played in
Yeah.
any friendlies. So Ertz has yet to receive her 100 cap kit and like framed jersey.
Yeah.
So she will be trying to earn her 117th and 118th caps in this camp, yet being honored for her 100th. It's just like, that just goes to show you how long it's been since she has been in this mix. We saw Alex Morgan being honored for her 200th. There's just a lot of different pieces to break down, but good roster that Black Wananowski has put together. I like the 26 players, and we'll get 23 dressing, and we're going to talk about a little bit of the personnel, who we're going to see, the lineups, because I want to know from you too, Sandra, what you're thinking in terms of how this goes. I mean, Mallory Swanson right now leads the team on the international level with 7 goals in 5 appearances so far in 2023. But remember, Sophia Smith hasn't been involved in the January camp and in the She Believes Cup. And Smith already has 4 goals in 2 games at the NWSL. So a little bit of a goal race there between Swanson and Smith. I love it. Give me that competition all day.
Look, I think going up against Ireland, it's going to be a tough day. I think if you're the defensive shape of Ireland, because this camp is reintroducing Sophia Smith back into the mix. She was hauled out of the previous 2 camps. There was that extended January camp where they took an important trip to New Zealand, held the camps out there, made sure that they got, you know, just sort of introduced to the flora and fauna out there,
Mhm.
where they're gonna spend the all of their group stage of the World Cup, and then the She Believes Cup that was, hosted back on home soil. And both of those matches, they said, we're keeping Sophia Smith out. It's nothing serious, but she does need some rest, a little bit of a foot issue, and she'll be ready to roll for NWSL. And my goodness, a hat trick coming out of that, most recent weekend of matches, just 2 weeks for players in the league, and now there's this early break, but it just looking like she hasn't missed a single beat
Mhm.
on the pitch. And then I think going up against Ireland, a team that is going to the World Cup, but they're entering this big stage as debutantes. I mean, they're obviously going to look at this window of friendlies is really important prep going up against the World Cup champions. Um, but I would imagine, having to game plan for a potential attacking line that features the return or the reintegration of Sophia Smith is going to be tough. They're really going to have to pick and choose, sort of how they're going to target, keeping these attackers at bay. Let's take a look at Ireland's roster a little bit as well, just in case you want to get familiar with the opposition. They went ahead and they dropped the roster on their socials for Twitter. Maybe some familiar names for some folks if
Mhm.
you follow NWSL specifically. We see in the midfield core there, they have Denise O'Sullivan listed. Shout out to Katie McCabe with Arsenal. 2 strong midfielders for this team. I think can maybe give the United States midfield trio a little bit of some different looks or a little bit of some different challenges. But I'm also curious of what we're going to see on the United States side of things to
Yeah.
try to combat that a little bit. But some familiar names in the forward line as well.
Yeah, I mean, throughout this list, like plenty of names that a lot of people should know. Diane Caldwell, she played in the States collegiately, and then a little bit in the NWSL. Yeah, I mean, the biggest one definitely being Sully, Denise O'Sullivan. You can see her picture there right on the roster. But Marissa Shiva, she's another one that is recently joined the NWSL with Washington Spirit. And this will only be like her second call up to the Ireland squad. So it's a squad that's continuing to evolve, continuing to kind of develop its personnel, because this is, as you mentioned, they're debutantes. The Republic of Ireland is debutantes to the World Cup. They're 22 in the rankings right now, in the FIFA rankings, and they've got a lot to prove to themselves, to their federation, to their nation. I think they're setting the bar pretty high for themselves in the best way possible, right? For them to go into a World Cup year and really the last window before the World Cup to get competition and be able to say, we're going to compete against the world champions, the 2-time world champions in the Americans. Like, what better competition could you ask for? It's going to expose a lot for them. I think they can come in with a pretty solid game plan against the United States because, as we all know, you and me, Sandra, and everyone joining us live on this chat, the United States has plenty of game film out there on them, and they have plenty of consistency in what Black Leninowski is trying to do, especially when you look at the She Believes Cup and how this roster came out and this team. So Ireland can look at that and say, okay, how are we going to be able to combat some of what the United States is throwing at us, whatever that may be. Now, the Julie Ertz of it all does throw a bit of a wrinkle in it, I think, when you're looking at it from Ireland's perspective, but they've still got a lot to prove. I
Yeah.
mean, I think we could see, honestly, a little bit of a difference between game one and game two for the Irish
Yeah.
side, in that they might sit back and they might try to defend a little bit more and not expose themselves and not look to give up goals or any easy shots, no easy looks for the Americans. But we could also see them get stretched a little bit, not in a bad way, more just like looking to move a little bit quicker. Can they get in behind the Americans in the back line? Can they use a little bit of their pace that they have up front to put pressure on the United States back line while not getting so stretched out? And trying to find that balance and defend against that for the United States is going to be tricky. That's why I think this is such a great matchup for Ireland against the United States. I'm really excited for it.
Yeah,
Excited
me
for
too.
all the fans to show up too, because this will be a big one. This will be a big
And
one with
it
our
might be an early glimpse too for
yeah,
some fans to take a look at these games because maybe, with the World Cup coming up in Australia and New Zealand, maybe some, American-focused fans might not get a chance to watch some of Ireland's, group stages, and they'll get a chance to take a look at them in these 2 friendlies, but I'm definitely taking a look at the goalkeepers as well 'cause,
yeah,
4 of them called into these camps versus the 3 for the United States, and I would imagine that, if all is well and healthy, that Courtney Bronson is gonna get the start in at least
right.
one or both of these games, right? The Everton keeper, representing Ireland, also a New Jersey native, so
Yep.
things to keep an eye on there, but really good goal. I'm just kinda wondering if, like, maybe if this game gets to a point, which it might, where there's a lot of shots that Bronson has to face, like, how she's gonna respond to that and,
Mhm.
kind of just able to absorb those things, which I think she can. I think we've seen some film on her before in the past, in their lead up and build up to the World Cup, where if the game is sort of coming to the keeper, Bronson has risen to the challenge of that. So we'll see. I'm excited to get a look at Ireland's roster and squad as well as they continue to make their march to the World Cup, and I'm excited to see who could possibly start in either of these 2 games. We got to talk about it, and we will.